morning and welcome to this month's meeting of Stanley Town Council, which is taking place on the 28th of June at 6:30 in Stanley Civic Hall. I'm sure you all know by now it's been recorded and will be on whatever it goes on. YouTube. Thank you. Yeah, for at least the next 6 months. Right. Can we start with the agenda, and apologies for absence, please?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I've received apologies for absence from Helen Clark, Katie Coulson, Alan Jones, Jeanette Stevenson and James Kane. And of course the Town Clerk, who's just managed to get on holidays.
Right, thanks for that. Have we any... Oh, sorry. Is that...
Can I put apologies in for Dean Fall, please?
Right, thank you. You had that? Yeah. Declarations of interest. If anyone got any declarations of interest for any of the items on the... Oh.
I'd like to declare an interest on item 7 and item 15. 7, I am Vice Chair of the Police and Crime Panel. And item 15, obviously, I'm Chair of the Community Centre, the existing Community Centre, so we could benefit from...
Right, thanks for that. You same, Christine?
So that's the
Yes.
For 15. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Right. Okay. Thanks. I don't know whether you heard that, but that was a list of things that the Town Mayor has attended in the last month. Thank you. Have you announcements?
For those that declare interest on the additional item of the police, we're going to pull that one into this item because it went out late. It needs to be dealt with under this item on the agenda. So just to keep everything correct. So I'll give members appropriate opportunity to reconfirm the interest. Just a little update, first of all, in relation to the heating system. Your clerk and the County Council met with Durham County Council on Wednesday. It was a positive meeting, and the current position is that Durham County Council and Compact, the heating company that we got the quote from, they met on site and discussed that, which had originally been refused. During that meeting, the issue was raised as to whether the boilers had tried to be fixed, and that question was asked as all the boilers had been condemned due to leakage, and it meant that the boilers themselves may be working and could be fixed. So when they've looked at it, didn't appear to be have checked to see if they had tried to be fixed. So they've come up with a second plan that Compact's going to come out and attempt to fix some or one of the remaining boilers, and that's going to happen on the 29th of June. If they can't be fixed, then Plan B is going to happen, where the DC's allowed the temporary boiler to go in at that cost, so it keeps we'll be in a position in the, shall we say, shorter term. So you can remember the position with the temporary boiler system. So it's a bit of good news, and they were out, I think, yesterday to do an initial assessment of the site, and I think they plan to be in tomorrow to come in and see if they can get them repaired, so fingers crossed. There's a bit of bad news on the roof. There was some further damage appeared where it appears that we think someone or something has put a large hole in the tiles. We don't think it was a seagull, so we think it's some person's been up there, and that needs to be repaired as a matter of urgency on the roof, and a quote is currently being obtained for the works to be undertaken as a matter of urgency. What I've said, Helen's going to arrange for us on her return for a separate meeting to go through those items. just an update on the current advert for the admin events officer role. No applications have been received, so it's been re-advertised with a new closing date of the 5th of July. And we'd ask all members if they could share that role far and wide. The other item was in relation to police vans, and it's because it's cropped up really urgently since just on the Friday before Helen went away. The situation is, members have seen the copy of the email that was sent out, yeah? So I don't need to go through it, but in essence, we're at this position where at the moment, the vehicle which we use the most, that's not the Blues and Twos vehicle, was due in for service, and there's no service being held pending the payment. So the situation is at the moment we are stuck. I've gone through as much information as I could today in the history in the past of what's gone on with that, and it appears to me that Stanley Town Council made a contribution for the police to acquire the vans, of which we then use one or shared use. So the situation is at the moment we need to make a decision. Now I know you've considered it in April and you've considered it in May. It's now at the stage where we really do need to try and make some decision on this.
Right, we've all read that, and it says to welcome and oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong bit. Yeah, to review and discuss and to consider the recommendations from the clerk on the way forward. Now, there was the recommendations that were made in May, were they? May was the last?
Yeah, there's been previous recommendation,
Yeah.
but basically they're summarised in the email that went to all members on the 24th of June. And in essence, the summary was that we're now in a position where the police have taken that one of the vans for servicing, and they can't confirm that. We have no budget for the vans. There's current ongoing cost pressures and discussions being undertaken with the Civic Hall, etc. And they really feel that the council has no option but to advise the police that we can't fund the vans currently. Although this may change should the PCC come back to us. By doing this, we would need to review the warden arrangement, as one warden has a van from DCC.
Yeah.
So,
So, can we have considerations on this? Can we have any inputs? Yes, David?
Right, and I'm just perturbed that it's £5,000 of a van. Is that correct?
Yes.
How many Lamborghinis have we got? £5,000 for servicing a van. That's a lot of money.
It's for the use of the year.
my only guess with that is the police requirements are probably substantially higher than normal, but it did seem excessive. Yeah. As an example, we could lease someone like under the current arrangements we've got with Durham County for something like, for the whole cost of the year, including fuel service, I think, figure, James, somewhere around about 7,000. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just come in? The situation is the vehicle is in the police garage. That is what they've quoted to get the works done. I've got no idea why they charge that, but they do. I think Jonah probably would back me up. In previous years when we've done vehicles like that, it's always got to a point where it's become very expensive. But however, that is the situation, and we do really need to continue with the service. We need to resolve the situation. No idea whether you get new engines or not, but what we do need to consider is that, you know, Stuart's just pointed out, I've had an email today that Durham County Council can supply us a hire vehicle, which they would get at their cost, like when they're bringing in fleet stuff like they do with one of ours at the minute, at a similar cost to what the service is going to cost for the police vehicle. There's so many different options here. We could do that, and we go to print me it, and we could get a magnetic signage saying Stanley Town Council and put it on the side of the vehicle, and it still shows people that we're out and about. The other consideration you need to make is that we are working in partnership with the police. We want to continue working in partnership with the police. but it doesn't necessarily have to be through means of supplying vehicles. It could be through other means. But either way, I really think we need to try and get to the bottom of this and make a decision, because the whole time our services are getting held up.
Can I ask what is the consequences? Is it a breach of contract? Is there anything that can be held against us? And why was this allowed to go through, as, you know, this kind of contract shouldn't have been allowed to go through?
Just reading, excuse me, just reading the notes I've got there, it appears that it might not just be the service. It works out £5,000 per year to keep it serviced, because it's over the 3-year warranty period. That's the figure. That's what it says. As far as that's concerned, it was a 3-year contract, so that we are not committed to anything beyond the 3-year period.
First of all, I'd like to thank the clerk for clarifying that point, because my understanding was exactly that. It's 5,000 per van per year, which is the original issue that we had to make a decision on. So I personally think what we need to do is, given the circumstances we're currently in regarding the building, I think we need to say that we can't go ahead with that contract going forward and commit to the £10,000 a year for the 2 vans. Particularly since there doesn't seem to be any assistance coming from the PCC, which is what Helen had chased to get some grants available. So if those grants aren't available, then I think what we need to do is to tell them that we need to terminate those contracts, because we need to sort the building out, and we need to discuss what happens in regards to the warden service going forward. So I think that's where I think we are at this moment in time. So we should, as I say.
Yep, Madam Chair, I think we can do that with some positivity. I mean, the PCC are still exploring. They haven't said no. There could be still some options, but the difficulty is, it just feels as if there's a deadline. And if you don't agree that now, so I think we've got to say we're happy to continue to explore options going forward, but this is the position where it is at the moment. And the difficulty that we have now is that we need a vehicle. So unless there's a solution found really quickly, we are still going to have to make decisions in relation to a replacement vehicle.
Do we have money in our budget to give our wardens a vehicle? Is it budgeted? And if it's not budgeted, how are we going to do it?
No, there was no budget for that £5,000. There's no budget for another vehicle. It was not expected.
No, that's not what I was saying. What I'm saying is, we don't do the £5,000 per vehicle. In our budget, push those other vehicles to one side. Have we budgeted for another vehicle for Stanley Town Council? And if not, where's the money coming from?
We would not have budgeted for something that was unexpected as this. We'll have contingencies of all things. Town Council got reserves. It could allocate reserves from that position. We're not in a position where we couldn't deal with that, but would need to have specific allocation. So the answer to your question is, there's no budget for the £5,000 service cost, and there's no budget to acquire an additional vehicle in this particular financial year.
It's all right. If my own grandma does it, then I'm expecting it from everyone else. I think it's clear that if it's going to cost us £5,000 per van, given the current situation we're in, especially with the Civic Hall, this is not something we can continue with, especially since the 3-year warranty is up. I believe that means if something happens to the van, even just after it's serviced, it's essentially going to get taken off the streets. So I understand the warden service requires a vehicle to continue in its current form. So I think what we should do is we should look at the options that we have available for possibly getting them a vehicle if we're not going to continue with these 2 vans. Hopefully look at options that can reduce our cost, but we simply can't commit to what would be £10,000 for 2 vans at this stage, especially given with the warranty not being there anymore.
He's looking at us, he's giving us a funny look. Why do the wardens need a van? That's just one. If we need a van, they are still paid from us, but via Durham County Council. Why can't they be provided with a van via Durham County Council?
If you're happy, I'm sure James could answer this a lot better than I can, but we have an arrangement where we work with Durham County Council, and that is the arrangement that we have in place. So we provide, it's like an enhanced service by providing those additional facilities. That's the idea, and that's part of our commitment, and that is budgeted for.
Just to come in there is Stuart's right, and just to reiterate what I said, obviously at the minute the other vehicle is provided by DCC at a cost as part of the service. I've had confirmation today that they can do that again. Obviously it's beneficial to do it through DCC because they hire so many vehicles, they get it at a better rate than say us as an individual council going to a company and hiring one. We're not going to get as good a rate, so we could ask DCC to provide that that vehicle that we need, and that would be in the region of, I think it was £6,800, and that includes fuel, servicing, everything. So, including fuel, yes.
Again, those figures are not
They're
really
indicative,
confirmed. So let's try and just to pick out the things. The situation we've got at the moment, there's a vehicle in a garage waiting for a service. Now, I don't know if that requires an MOT, whether it's legal, whether it needs an oil change, an oil filter, or whatever, but the ongoing cost is potentially up to 5k a year. I think the first step is to actually find out whether we can go and pick up that van and fetch it back, and whether it's roadworthy, we could use it, because it's still there. If that's prevented from, that resolves the initial problem that the lads have got somewhere to work with. And at the same time, put forward the position of the police that going forward, that isn't the case. That buys a little bit of time. If that's not feasible, can the guys, I'm going to ask James, can the lads work with one vehicle in the short term? It's not great for neighbourhood wardens not having two vehicles.
Short term, possibly, but it would need addressing. The option you just said about whether we can actually go and get that vehicle back, whilst that police vehicle has the radio airwaves in, it has liveried up with police logos and etc., and it's registered to the police, they wouldn't allow that. I'm fairly certain they wouldn't allow that back out on the street until they're happy to have it in the condition, and that's what I believe.
Sorry about that. Right, we can take a vote on the first proposition, which was the one that Gordon said, that we currently can't afford this, and that we hand the vans back to the police. Right. So, can I just ask? We've had it proposed, and I'll take that as being a second. Yes, Gordon.
Clarify something on that point.
Yeah.
The options that we're looking at, are they cheaper than the option of keeping the vans?
I'm
Because the
assuming
figures
that
of £6,000 and stuff being handed about, and
Yeah.
where the fact there's a £5,000 for the vans, is the option to provide the wardens with a van, is that a cheaper option going forward?
At this point in time, the full answer, we've just quickly got some figures outside because this has been really quite new. The position really is we either terminate the contract with the police or we stuck with that ongoing cost going forwards. I think we need to do that to give us the options to do the review, but in taking that into account, we do need to make sure that that's value for money, and £5,000 a year for that vehicle doesn't seem initially that.
Yes, Sam.
Just sort of on what Gordon was saying, I think based on I know they're quick figures, but based on the figures we've been given, it would be cheaper to look at perhaps other options of hiring one van or leasing one van or whatever it is, instead of looking to service both vans. So if Gordon's alright with this, I'd like to change the proposal slightly to say we look to terminate the contract with the police on both vans, and then look at other options about getting a single van for our wardens that they can use full time, including options like through DCC, which will hopefully be at a lesser cost than servicing both vans. If Gordon's alright with that.
I'm okay with that.
Right. That's the proposition we've put forward. Does anyone else wish to put anything forward before we take a vote on this? No? Right. Okay. Right. And all those in favour of the police vans going back? Yes, thank you. And exploring the possibilities of getting another one from DCC. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's one here. Right. Okay. All those against? And have we any abstentions? Well, obviously Joan, because she declared an interest. Yeah. Right. Thank you. Right. Oh, and Mary as well. Right. Thank you. Okay. Well,
Could I ask one thing, Madam Chair? In the interim, because obviously we need to continue with work, do we have the authority, if necessary, where we can, I'm sure we'll be able to do something in the short term, but if necessary, we might have to hire something to keep that availability in the guys on the streets.
if that has to be done, it has to be done. You can't. Yeah.
And we'll come back to benefits.
Yeah. If we could at some point have a report back to. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I know. Usually you can hear me anyway, but we're required to make a decision in relation to future funding. And so, is there anything you would like to add to the information that we already have, if you wouldn't mind?
Very briefly, when we looked at putting a bid together,
Yeah.
we based it on the previous bid, if you like, over 3 years. We are entirely conscious now of how things have changed in the local environment, the costs to councils and supporting their communities. So we would be more than happy to discuss if you're actually interested in continuing the fund on a rolling programme and not making any commitment beyond the first year, given the availability of funding, and also sort of putting cost of living into that and how that affects local people. So we're quite able to have a discussion. The whole point of this was really just a starting point to discuss, and we can shape it as you wish. The offer for funding for the foundation is still there. The AAP has actually supported the funding. They've actually contributed 20k already. We have stakeholder bid funds in, and also have donors. Kevin Jones, for example, and another local businessman have donated the fund. What we don't have this year is the OPCC funding, and that's because they actually made the decision to do a generalised community safety fund with the foundation across the whole of County Durham and Darlington. So there's £5,000 short from there. However, we do have a carry forward figure of £5,000. So all told, we're actually still on target. That's if you decide tonight to go ahead with it.
Well, that's made what I was about to say a little bit easier. I would personally, I quite like the Stanley Fund. I think the benefit it's had to our communities has been amazing. However, given the current situation that we're in, both nationally with the cost of living crisis and the situation the town council is in with the civic hall, we should be looking at funding the Stanley Fund on a sort of rolling basis. I believe it has been budgeted already that we would put in £50,000 for this first year. So I would propose that we continue with that. However, in future years, we look at whether we are able to commit that funding based on the situation the town council finds itself in with the civic hall and with other financial situations that may come in the future. So I believe we should make a commitment to funding it for the first year, and then in a year or so's time look again at whether we can commit to funding it for the second year and the third year.
I'll second what Sam says, totally agree with it.
There's no doubt about it that Stanley has benefited, and that the people of Stanley have benefited from the fund. And I really do think that, you know, where possible, we should be doing this. Anyone else?
I'm really sorry, but my area hasn't benefited from anything with regard to the Stanley Fund, and I disagree with it. And I don't mean to upset anybody, but, you know, it's our money from our areas, and we get nothing back from it. And I'm just totally, for this reason, I'm totally against it. I know Stanley as a whole, this side gets, but Anfield Plain Catchgate get nothing. Sorry. Plus, I disagree with the amount of money that's being charged for to give the money to our people. It can be done cheaper in-house. My opinion, sorry.
That's quite all right. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. Yes. Joan, right.
You know, we've already made an agreement to fund this for this year.
Yeah.
The time to make the next arrangement would be when we're setting the budget in October.
Yeah.
So there is really, the decision has already been made. Yeah.
I saw some hands up, yes.
I mean, I was just going to say that it's not true that Anfield Plain has got nothing from the Stanley Fund. I can see it right in front of us. They've had £20,000. I know it's been raised before that groups in Anfield Plain have had issues applying to the Stanley Fund. They didn't necessarily know about it, but I think that's a conversation we should have in the future, and partly down to the councillors for their wards to promote the fund and to look at helping groups to apply for it.
Okay, Joan?
I'd like to come in on that one. If a councillor is to promote it, she needs to know, or he needs to know, when it's due. And I've not had one single announcement as to when this was open.
Yes? Right. Sorry.
Hiya. When we launched the fund, and we set the dates every year, the fund, it's not random, it's open, and it's kept open for 12 months. On our website, we've got programme dates of when they will be open. We promote it through social media, the press, the Northern Echo. We promoted it through, adverts. We promote it as far as we can. We do appreciate that in the first 2 years that the fund was actually for organisations who wanted more than £2,000. And I think that actually did exclude some groups, because the council retained a fund to actually give to the very small organisations, like the allotment clubs and the like, and those very small organisations. But the final year that was changed, and I have to say sort of the impact of the fund hasn't just been from the £50,000 from the town council. I think over the period of 3 years we've managed to bring in nearly £900,000 on the back of the contribution of the town council in bringing funding in. Now it may be that organisations in Anfield Plain aren't applying, but that's not true to say they're not applying to the foundation, and they are, and that is also a real source of funding that is open to everybody as well. Similarly, they also have big lottery funding going to Anfield Plain, which actually make quite a big difference in developing a social hub or a community hub for organisations. I think as regards the fee, if we look at the fee, in the first 2 years we waived the fee, and we were actually funded by DCMS to develop this place-based funding. Latterly, we have to charge a fee because that's what we do. But the fee we charge is 12.5%. Even at 10%, it's £12,500 to run a full programme of £100,000 that has actually matched itself threefold in 1 year. I don't think you'd actually be able to deliver that through the council because you'd have to employ somebody, at a rate of 25,000, 30,000 to deliver this on that scale. So I would disagree with the size of the fee or the cost of actually delivering this, because I think the potential for this is far greater than the cost actually of somebody developing this programme. I think too we need to remember that actually the people who make the decisions about this are actually the councillors themselves. On the panel there are 3 Stanley Town councillors on the community panel, along with representatives from Carbon Homes, from local residents. So the decisions to actually award these funds, whether rejected or accepted, are actually made by a panel of community representatives. And I don't know how much more egalitarian we can make that, really. I think in terms of local scope, I think I would agree with Sam, actually. There is potential for, if required, we can give you any dates you like when this is going to open. We can tell you any month and when they're going to open. It's available through all of our channels, but we're quite happy to meet with local councillors to go through the dates when these are available for funding.
Right, thanks very much for that. Christine, did you want to come back?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I'm looking on the thing that's on here. It says that Anfield Plain had £20,882 for 3 grants, but I don't know who's had it. But there's none of the people that we knows. The Croft. So it's the Croft that's had it, which is the school, but there's none of the other partnerships have applied, been turned down. They're the people that we used to back. They're the people we used to give out of our members, our MIF. Yeah. And these people that we were giving our monies to no longer get it, so they have nobody else to go to. That's what I've got to say. It costs me nothing to give them it.
Anybody can apply to the Stanley Fund. We don't stop anybody from applying. So if any organisation wants to apply, they can apply, and they're assessed appropriately and then brought to the panel. I think if organisations don't feel strong enough to apply, we've also got means to help them. So we have a funding helpline, for example. So we have a member of staff who actually supports groups to actually put in applications. So it's quite easy to actually forward a group to our helpline so that someone can get advice about that. Previously, every year we've run funding surgeries to invite groups in to talk to them about how they can apply. So I think actually we're trying our very best to actually get the message out to anybody. But I would say that if you know of organisations who actually want to apply, by all means give them my details and we'll get in touch and we'll come and meet them and talk to them about it.
What I'd like to say there is, given the fact that we are committed for this year, I think, and taking on board Councillor Bell's issues, then I think we should definitely make the effort to have a regular meeting and iron out these issues that obviously you clearly have. Iron out these issues over the next year to overcome the access issue and problem that obviously Councillor Bell is very conscious about and aware of. So I think we should take the opportunity of this year to iron those issues out.
Can I just say thank you, Gordon?
Yeah, yes. Right, sorry.
Right, Sharon, you've just said that it's open all the time. And I've just went on. It's open from July the 1st to August the 31st, and then reopens on October the 1st to November the 30th. What about those times? The 8 months of the year that.
Well, it's actually closed at the minute because obviously we're requiring funding. But actually, those are the funding. When we get the funding in, that's when we have to close them so the panel can actually make make those decisions, because what we can't do is have panels making decisions while applications are still coming in. So that we have to have a period when actually we close down to do the assessments, so the panel can meet and then actually reopen again. We can change though. If we have it open all the time, what happens is that people who actually apply at one point have to wait an awful long time before they get a decision. If they're outside of this, say the panel meets every 3 months, and you apply at the beginning of the 3 months, and then you might have to wait another 3 months before it goes to panel again. So we have to shut it down so there's no disappointment for people who are waiting for it to go to panel. Does that make sense?
Well, as I was saying, you know, it's July, August,
Yeah.
then a month later, it's October, November. It's a long time from November till July. You know, would it not be better doing it in 6 months? And I know when you said that people's got to meet, but it's just, you know, 4 months, or 5 months it's open, and then for the rest of the time it's not.
Well, the funding goes really quickly. So we've got to make sure that we've actually got enough funding there for all the people who are going to apply. So we have to, some regard, restrict people from putting applications all the time. We can keep it open for an awful long time, but you could be waiting 4 or 5 months before you get a decision. Yeah.
That's not really what I'm trying to say. Is, you know, for 5 months of the year or thereabouts, it's open. But for the rest of the time, would it not be better doing it 6 months and 6 months and keep it open for the same length of time? You know, a couple of months in March, you know, and September, March to April, September to October, something like that, rather than, you know, it's virtually open July to November.
Well, again, not really, because it means someone might have to wait 6 months until they get an answer when a panel meets, and that's a long time to actually sort of forecast when you're going to start your project. We need to make sure that actually organisations can plan ahead, and if they're waiting for a decision from a panel for 6 months, then before that fund closes, it's a long time for them to wait. I think also, as I say, the money does go pretty quickly, so we've got to do it in either 2 or 3 tranches. We've got to make sure that we've got enough money in each particular panel that we can actually afford. So we do have to close it. Otherwise, we could get rid of all of the money in 6 months and it'd be on for the rest of the year.
Right. We've got, we had a proposal which was seconded that we, for this year, carry on as normal, with it reviewed at the beginning of next year as part of the budget setting process. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So can we take a vote on that then? All those in favour? So, sorry, Joan, did you want to say something before we do that?
Just clarify.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just clarify something? We've already took a vote on this and agreed it, that we would pay this year. Can we take the same, because we can't bring a motion back to council in 6 months, so we've agreed it.
Apologies. I'm picking up on the fact that rather than give the long-term 3-year commitment, you want to look at it again.
That was what was meant.
And I think that the key thing is just remember the timeline's going to be very tight because you'll start your budgets in October, November, and we're now in nearly July. So July, August, September, the next 3 months. And my guess would be, I think the opportunities for the other, if there's some, when I say niggles or areas of concern, we can probably have a look at that and see what they can do to make it wider, because it's all about openness and being accessible to everyone. So, based on that, the recommendation, it's been agreed, and we will review the situation at budget time for 23.
So in that case, we don't need to have a vote on it. No.
Thank you very much. Would you like me to disappear now?
I think we've had you sitting there long enough. Thank you very much. Right. Now. Sorry. Yes. We're on to item 8 now, which is confirmation of the minutes. To approve as a record and sign the minutes of the annual council meeting held on the 24th of May 2020, which seems an awful long time ago. Can I have a proposal for that?
I'll propose it.
You propose it? Right, thank you, Alex. Can I have a seconder? Anyone? Sam, second. Thank you very much. All in agreement? As I say, it sounds like a long time ago. Receipt of committee minutes, to receive the minutes of the Finance and General Purposes Committee for the 10th of May, which is attachment C, and accounts and payments of bank reconciliation. We'll do the receipt of the committee minutes as a single item. Have we got a proposer?
Propose
That right. Second, Sam second. Okay. Yeah, sorry.
Point of order, Sam wasn't at that meeting, were you, Sam?
Finance and General Purposes. It's the 10th of May. I don't know. Check the paperwork.
On the minutes, it doesn't say that you're on, Sam.
All right. Can we have another second? Angela second that one. Right. Okay. Are we? Can we agree those minutes? Right. Thank you. No, item 10, accounts for payments and bank reconciliation. To consider the attached information and approve the payments of the accounts and note the bank reconciliation. Right, are we, Angela?
Can I move that we take them as one item and accept them? I know that in the finance meeting there was a query with regards to one of the attachments being missing, but we've subsequently been provided with that. So can we take them as one item and approve them, please?
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Yeah, thank you. Right. Can we agree the minutes of the... Anyone not agree? Thank you. Item 11. Town Council's attendance at meetings review, attachment G. To review and discuss the meeting attendance register for 2021-22, to consider the recommendations from the Finance and General Purposes Committee on the way forward. Have you got a thing on that? It's
So, in summary, Finance and General recommended that Council send a reminder out to all members, just remind them of their obligations to attend meetings and remind them of the 6-month deadline. So, that's the
okay.
case. So
Which I
just-
don't think it's been done yet, but it will be. Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry I can't give a personal representation, but the events working group met on the 15th of June with its new membership, and advised that it was a very, very good meeting, lots of discussion. They looked at this year's event schedule, and each event is well into its planning with the Armed Forces Day, which was on Sunday, and I'm sure that those will be aware how successful it was. The meetings will be held on a monthly basis, and they'll not only discuss the large events, but they'll also be looking at the small events that take place here at Civic Hall as well.
Item 13, meeting schedule and committee structure. To receive and discuss the verbal update from the clerk, it's you again, sorry, and consider the recommendations from the Finance and General Purposes Committee on the way forward. I think there was a recommendation. Yeah.
Honestly, Helen was great. We had a chat last Thursday, a recap on Friday, and she left me little notes just to help me through this. So, following the annual meeting, an email was sent to all council regarding the meeting schedule and requesting dates and times that suited councils best. The feedback received was that the current day and time suited best. No other suggestions were made in relation to working groups and the committee structure. But that being said,
Yes, sorry,
Yep.
was. I'll
Yep.
just let you finish.
but that being said, they would welcome a staffing working group to discuss staffing matters, which can often be of a personal nature, and a smaller working group to deal with the ongoing Civic Hall project, which the clerk believes would help keep things moving and ensure decisions were made. So, a suggestion that perhaps members may wish to appoint a small working group that can look at those issues personally, which can be dealt with and convened quite quickly.
Yes, Sam?
Just on the matter of a civic hall working group, I think particularly with the situation of this building, we should look to appoint a civic hall working group, perhaps of 5 members, to deal with any ongoing issues of maintenance or the usage of the building. I think if we have 5 members, that gives us a good cross-section of the different viewpoints, and it's also a small enough group that they can sort of find a direction and go forward, instead of the issues we sometimes have in full council where things go back out for report and then come back and it keeps going backwards and forwards. I think it would give us a much clearer direction forward. On a staffing working group matter, I think that's also a good idea. I'm unsure of how many members you'd like to put on that. I think that's something for perhaps the staff to decide, especially the clerk. But I'd like to propose that we do create both of those working groups.
Again, Madam Chair, I'm sure that if the idea is agreed by Council, Helen will go back, pull some brief terms of reference with some suggestions, and if the recommendation of the Council to look at 5 for that working group, I'm sure that will be taken on board. And I think for the staffing, it probably needs to be small, and if it's a working group, shouldn't be quite as small, but they'll need some simple terms of reference. That's fine.
Okay, that is, anyone, any contributions to that one? Anyone else want to make a contribution to that? So that one, that's okay. I mean, we're not, we've discussed it and we've considered it and the proposal has been made. So can we just leave it at that, and Helen will get back to us.
So the resolution
Yes,
will be
Gordon?
that the current meetings will stay the same, but we're going to establish 2 new working groups with further details to come back.
Did we not discuss the makeup of the finance committee? Was that not raised as an issue? No? Okay. All right, I'll shut up then.
You're asking me, Gordon? I can't remember. Right, so we've done that one. So item 14, exclusion of press and public. Yes.